Malik Jordan arrived at the airport earlier than he needed to, not because he loved waiting, but because he hated surprises. He'd learned that airports were systems stacked on systems, and the smallest delay could cascade into something that looked like your fault even when it wasn't. He checked in online the night before, chose his seat, saved his boarding pass to his phone, and even took a screenshot in case the app decided to refresh itself at the worst moment. He had one carry-on, one backpack, and a calm plan. Security, coffee, gate, board, breathe. The terminal was bright and crowded in that particular way airports were. People rushing with purpose, families clustering around strollers, business travelers marching with headphones in like they were invincible. Malik moved through it quietly, scanning signs, staying out of the frantic lanes, letting other people's stress remain their own. He passed TSA with no issue, shoes on again, laptop back in his bag, and walked toward his gate. The flight was a short one, an evening hop to attend a cousin's wedding across the country. Malik hadn't wanted to go at first. Work was heavy, money was tight, but his mother had looked him dead in the eyes and said, "You show up. That's what family does." So he was showing up. At the gate, the seats were almost full. A line had started forming even though boarding hadn't been called yet, because people did that at airports like it was a sport. Malik sat near a window and plugged in his phone. He glanced at the time. Plenty. He opened the Airline app again. Boarding pass still there. Seat still there. Confirmation still there. When boarding began, it was the usual controlled chaos. Groups called, people standing early, overhead bins becoming contested territory. Malik waited until his group was called, then stood and joined the moving line toward the scanner. The gate agent, white woman in her 40s with tight hair, and that practiced, "I'm in charge of this line" posture, stood beside the podium watching passengers approach. Another agent, a white man, sat behind the computer, typing and occasionally glancing up with a tired expression. Malik stepped up, held his phone under the scanner, and heard the beep. The screen flashed red. The agent's hand lifted immediately. "Stop!" Malik paused, calm. "Okay." She looked at her screen, then at Malik, then back at her screen. "You're not cleared to board." Malik blinked once. "What do you mean?" She tapped her keyboard sharply. "Your boarding pass is not valid." Malik held his phone up again. "It's right here. I checked in. I have a seat." The agent's mouth tightened. "Sir, step to the side." A couple behind Malik shifted impatiently. Someone sighed loudly like Malik had chosen to delay the line for fun. Malik stepped to the side because he understood logistics, but he didn't move away from the podium. He kept himself close enough to stay part of the conversation. "What's the issue?" Malik asked, still steady. The agent didn't answer directly. "What's your name?" "Malik Jordan," she typed. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "This says you already boarded." Malik's stomach tightened. "That's impossible. I'm standing here." The agent shrugged as if impossibility was not her problem. "It shows a successful scan at this gate." Malik felt heat rise behind his ribs, but he kept his voice level. "Then your system is wrong, or someone scanned my pass." The agent gave a thin smile that wasn't friendly. "People try to do that sometimes." Malik stared at her. "Try to do what?" She didn't answer. She just looked him up and down in that quick, assessing way that made Malik feel like he was being measured against a stereotype. Malik had been in enough spaces like this to recognize the shift, from passenger to problem. "I need you to resolve this," Malik said calmly, "because I paid for this seat. I'm not missing this flight because your screen says something that isn't true." The agent's tone hardened. "Sir, you're going to need to go to customer service." Malik looked past her to the jet bridge door where passengers were disappearing onto the plane. The line was moving. The gate area was clearing. Time was shrinking. "If I go to customer service, this plane leaves," Malik said. The agent's shoulders rose slightly. "Then you should have handled this earlier." Malik's jaw tightened, then relaxed. He refused to let her rewrite the timeline as if he hadn't done everything correctly. "I did handle it earlier. I checked in. I'm here on time. Your system is showing an incorrect scan." The man behind the computer finally looked up. "What's going on?" The agent replied quickly, controlling the narrative. "He's coming up as already boarded." The man behind the computer frowned and clicked around. Malik watched his eyes move across the screen, his expression shifting from bored to mildly concerned. Malik leaned forward slightly. "Can you pull the gate scan record?" he asked, careful but firm. "It should show the exact timestamp and scanner ID. If it's scanned, it's logged. I want to see when it says I boarded." The agent's eyes narrowed. "We don't show internal records to passengers." Malik kept his voice calm. "Then read it aloud." The agent pressed her lips together as if Malik asking for facts was rude. "Sir?" Malik didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "This is a data issue. You can fix it by checking the scan record. If the scan happened, it has details." The man behind the computer glanced at the agent, then back at his screen, and started typing deeper, faster. A few seconds passed. Then he paused. He leaned closer to the monitor. The agent watched him with growing irritation. "What?" He hesitated, then said, "It shows a scan, but it's weird." Malik's pulse steadied. "How is it weird?" The man clicked again. "The scan record is logged under your boarding pass, but the device ID corresponds to the pre-board scanner at the podium, not the actual gate reader." The agent's face tightened. "What does that mean?" "It means the pass was marked as boarded when it was checked during pre-boarding verification," he said slowly, "not when the passenger actually entered the jet bridge." Malik held still. That was the crack. "So it marked me as boarded without me boarding." The agent's cheeks flushed slightly. "That's not—" The man cut her off. "It can happen if someone taps confirm during the verification step instead of preview." The agent's eyes flicked away, and Malik saw it. She knew exactly what happened. Someone, maybe her, maybe someone earlier, had misclicked and turned his legitimate boarding pass into a used one. Malik spoke carefully, not attacking, just stating, "So, the system error is on your end." The agent's jaw clenched. "We're in active boarding." Malik nodded. "And I'm an active passenger. Fix it." For a moment, the agent hesitated like she was weighing whether to admit fault or protect her pride. But the clock on the screen behind her ticked closer to departure. The line was nearly gone. If she didn't fix it now, it would become a bigger problem. One that might involve rebooking, paperwork, explanations to supervisors. Finally, she exhaled sharply. "Fine," she said, and typed quickly. She turned the screen slightly away as she worked, as if the process was private. Malik watched her hands, watched the tension in her shoulders. Then she said stiffly, "Try again." Malik stepped back to the scanner, held his phone under it. Beep. Green. The gate door clicked. The agent's smile did not return. "Go," she said flatly, like she was annoyed Malik existed in her schedule. Malik walked forward onto the jet bridge, hearing the muffled roar of the aircraft ventilation ahead. He didn't feel triumphant. He felt tired in a specific way. Tired of needing to be calm and precise in moments when other people could just be confused and still be helped. As he found his seat and stowed his bag, he looked out the window at the Xena. Workers moving luggage, orange cones marking boundaries, a plane across the way pushing back from its gate. The world ran on systems. Systems failed. And when they failed, someone had to carry the cost. This time, Malik had refused to carry it. He opened his phone and took a screenshot of his boarding pass with the boarded status now correctly reflected, then saved it to a folder he'd created months ago called Travel. He shouldn't have needed that folder, but experience had made it necessary. When the plane finally took off, Malik leaned back and closed his eyes, letting the vibration of flight fill his body. He thought of the wedding ahead, of family, of showing up, and he thought of the gate scan record, the tiny line of data that had turned a denial into a resolution. Sometimes the truth wasn't loud. Sometimes it was just a timestamp buried in a system, waiting for someone to insist it be read. Malik didn't think about the gate incident much, once the plane leveled off, but the residue of it stayed in his body in a way he couldn't completely ignore. Not anger. He'd learned to release that quickly. But alertness, the kind that kept his awareness tuned slightly higher than everyone else around him. He watched the cabin settle into its rhythm, tray tables dropping, overhead lights dimming, flight attendants moving down the aisle. People scrolled through phones or slept. The ordinary comfort of travel resumed for them. For Malik, it took longer. He arrived at his destination without issue, attended the wedding, laughed with relatives, and let himself enjoy the celebration. For a few days, the airport moment faded behind family stories, food, and dancing. But on the return trip, as he checked in again online, something unexpected happened. His boarding pass wouldn't generate. Instead, the airline app displayed a message asking him to see a gate agent for verification. Malik stared at the screen for a moment, not alarmed, just recognizing the pattern. Systems sometimes remembered irregularities. Flags didn't always clear cleanly. At the airport, he went directly to the service desk rather than waiting for the gate confrontation to repeat itself. A different agent. White man, early 30s, polite but procedural, pulled up Malik's reservation and paused longer than normal. "It looks like your account was tagged for scan inconsistency on your previous flight," the agent said. Malik nodded slowly. "Because the gate system logged me as boarded before I boarded." The agent blinked, surprised Malik already knew. He checked further. "Yes, I see the annotation now. It wasn't fully cleared." Malik kept his tone calm. "Then let's clear it now." The agent typed, reading through back-end notes. The record included the corrected scan entry, the override authorization, and a technical comment about device misclassification. But the automated flag had still triggered a secondary identity check. "Can I see your ID?" the agent asked. Malik handed it over without hesitation. The agent compared the details, entered confirmation codes, and removed the alert. He printed a new boarding pass and slid it across the counter. "That should resolve it going forward," he said. Malik accepted it. "Appreciate you checking thoroughly." He meant it, not sarcastically, because this time the process had included verification before assumption. There was a difference, and Malik always noticed it. At the gate later, boarding went smoothly. The scanner flashed green immediately. No stop, no sidestep, no scrutiny. Just passage. But as Malik walked down the jet bridge, he reflected on how small technical events could echo beyond their moment. A single incorrect scan could cascade into future flags, questions, delays. For passengers unaware of system mechanics, it might feel random or personal. Malik understood it as structural. Data trails influencing automated decisions. But understanding didn't make it less exhausting. On the flight home, he opened his laptop and added notes to his travel folder. He logged the dates, the conversations, the resolution steps. Not obsessively, methodically. Documentation turned memory into reference, and reference prevented repetition. Weeks later, another trip came up for freelance work. Different airline, different city. Malik checked in online as usual and arrived early. When he scanned at that gate, everything proceeded without incident. No red flash, no intervention. Just a simple beep and passage. He found his seat and settled in, allowing himself a small exhale. What stayed with him wasn't the inconvenience or even the confrontation. It was the reminder that access in complex systems often depended on persistence, clarity, and knowledge of process. Malik didn't see himself as someone looking for conflict. He saw himself as someone ensuring fairness, calmly, precisely, without escalation unless necessary. Looking out the window as the runway lights streaked past during takeoff, he felt something quieter than victory. He felt steadiness, confidence built not from never encountering problems, but from knowing he could navigate them. And he knew, just as he'd known walking up to that scanner the first time, that sometimes the difference between being turned away and moving forward wasn't volume or force. It was simply asking the right question at the right moment, and insisting the record be checked. Malik didn't expect the airline incident to echo into anything larger after that second trip resolved cleanly. Life moved forward the way it usually did. Deadlines, client edits, invoices, travel planning, and airports became background again rather than focal points. But several months later, while booking another flight for a paid project across the country, something surfaced that reminded him how long digital footprints could linger. He selected his flight, entered payment, confirmed the itinerary. Everything appeared normal until the confirmation page stalled for a second longer than expected. Then the message appeared. Booking accepted, but profile verification recommended at check-in. Not blocked, not denied, just flagged. Malik leaned back in his chair, reading it twice. He wasn't surprised. He'd come to understand that airline databases weren't isolated moments. They were layered histories. Device mismatches, scan irregularities, manual overrides. All of it became metadata shaping automated decision trees long after the original issue was fixed. Rather than ignore it, he decided to address it proactively. The next day, he called the airline's customer records support line. After navigating the familiar maze of menus and hold music, he reached a representative and explained calmly that he wanted to confirm his traveler profile contained no unresolved flags that might disrupt future boarding. The representative sounded slightly confused at first. Most callers reacted after problems, not before them, but she transferred him to a technical support liaison who handled account annotations. The liaison reviewed Malik's file. There was a pause. Then she said, "I see historical scan inconsistency markers from a prior flight. They're closed, but not fully purged from pattern recognition." Malik nodded, even though she couldn't see him. What does that mean operationally? It means automated systems may occasionally request verification. It doesn't block travel. Malik responded evenly. Is there a way to fully reconcile the record so the anomaly isn't repeatedly evaluated? Another pause, longer. The sound of deeper system navigation. Well, she said, we can submit a normalization request if documentation confirms resolution. Malik opened his folder immediately. He still had the corrected scan record screenshot, the trip logs, timestamps, and confirmation notes he'd saved months ago. He emailed them within minutes. 2 days later, he received a confirmation message. Traveler record updated, inconsistency resolved at system level. It wasn't dramatic, no apology, no fanfare, just a small adjustment in a database somewhere. But Malik understood the impact. Systems trusted clean data more than verbal explanation, and he just ensured his digital identity matched reality going forward. When the travel date arrived, he moved through the airport with his usual composed routine. Check-in smooth, security smooth, coffee purchased. Gate reached early. Boarding began. He approached the scanner, held his phone steady. Beep, green, no pause, no second look, no side instruction, just passage. He walked down the jet bridge feeling something subtle shift. Not relief, not triumph, something steadier. Confidence in preparation. Confidence in understanding how complex infrastructures interacted with individuals. Confidence that advocacy didn't always require confrontation. Sometimes it meant documentation, foresight, and patience. Later, seated on the aircraft, he watched passengers settle in and reflected on the arc of events that began with a single red scanner light months earlier. What might have been dismissed as an inconvenience had become a lesson in digital trace persistence, institutional response patterns, and the importance of owning one's narrative within automated systems. He realized something else, too. Most people never saw these mechanisms. They experienced outcomes without understanding causes. But Malik valued awareness, not as a shield against every problem, but as a tool for navigating uncertainty without surrendering agency. As the plane lifted into the evening sky, city lights shrinking below, Malik closed his eyes briefly and let the quiet vibration of ascent settle him. He didn't dwell on the past interactions anymore. They were simply part of his experience now, folded into the growing understanding that movement through the world, especially through structured systems, wasn't just about showing up. It was about being prepared to ensure the record showed you exactly as you were, present, authorized, and moving forward.